We have Ms. Cecilia Tement from Toronto, Canada. She's a transformational story coach, author, and speaker. Let's welcome her.
Hello.
Hello, how are you, Cecilia?
I'm wonderful. Nice to see you. Thank you for having me.
Likewise, likewise. Thank you so much for accepting to be with us for the next 60 minutes and then share your knowledge, especially focused on You Are Not Alone, where you're going to focus on different aspects of life and more importantly, how to rewrite. And there are multiple areas where people need support, especially in this scenario. You coming forward to
Hmm.
share your knowledge is highly appreciated. So, first,
Oh,
we'll
it's my
start with
pleasure.
there are three segments. First segment is about who is Miss Cecilia, what's her journey so far. Second is focused on the theme, you're not alone, and rewriting your story. The third one is a bit lighter and surprise segment. When we get there, I'll tell you. So we'll start with the first segment. Miss Cecilia, who are you? Over to you.
Well, I was born in Hong Kong and I came here to Canada when I was just a baby. And so my family really struggled to establish a life here. And, growing up was so interesting because as an immigrant, really kind of establishing my identity, understanding who I was and how I fit into the fabric of, the country and what that looked like for me was a big thing. But one of the most formative parts of my life is that I grew up in an abusive home, and so a big part of my story and my journey is what that was like for me as a child and how that contributed to how I felt about myself, my self-esteem, my worth, the concept of who I thought I was or who I thought I had to be, and all of that kind of journeyed into my adulthood in terms of what I decided to do, the decisions that I made, how I felt about what I was going to, choose in my life from moment to moment. And I really did suffer for a big part of my life into my 40s. And it wasn't until recently that I started to understand who I truly am and what I wanted to do and how my past contributed to that story.
Wow. Okay. Are there any lessons which you could share, key lessons from your journey?
Yes, definitely. I was somebody because I had come from a place of pain and of lack. I really didn't feel good about myself. And so, one of the biggest lessons I can say to anyone is you have to learn how to self love. That is probably the number one thing that I feel holds everybody back. And when we are able to love ourselves limitlessly and completely and wholly, that is when we come from a place of complete inner wealth and understanding. And so, that was one of the big things. Another thing that I would say is we're always so quick to react from a place of hurt when we're interacting with other people. And so I always tell people, like, when someone says something to you or something happens to you, you take a beat and you take a breath and take a moment to really digest it and think about how you want to respond as opposed to react. And that really prevents a lot of conflict from happening, a lot of problems arising, and it just gives you a clearer understanding of how you can communicate with love as opposed to anger.
Thank you so much. What we're going to focus is mainly on You're Not Alone theme.
Hmm.
So please explain, as a transformational story coach, how do you impact people?
I think that my impact comes from my genuine story and knowing that that authentic side of me is what contributes to my coaching knowledge. Going through the experience of going from being a victim to a survivor to a thriver, and understanding that my trauma is not my ending. I think that really helps me to help other people. And so, the one thing that I always say to everyone is they are not alone. There is always someone out there who is willing to listen, to help, to heal. And in order to really transition through anything, we have to know who our circle is. And so I would say to look around you and see who you have in your life who's truly supportive, non-judgmental, non-critical, but who holds you, in high regard and understands what it means to be honest and have integrity, but from a place of kindness and compassion. And that's really what I do for my clients is I just hold space for them and I allow them to share their thoughts and their feelings with me, but also to motivate them from a clear place of, goal-oriented understanding. And that's a big thing that I think everybody needs is to know that there's someone in your corner cheering you on, helping you forward, and assisting you to realize your own magic and your own presence. And that's something that's really important to me as a coach is I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to help you find the answers that suit you.
That's a nice way to put it. When you especially say, I'm here to help you, and not necessarily I need to know all the answers for the questions you have, but definitely I'm there with you. That gives a kind of assurance for a person to actually move on with their life. Very good. I mean, the intention is good, and then the conviction and the gravity in which you're going to support the person will actually give them the confidence to march on with their life. Come what may, I'm going to survive. I'm going to go to the next level. Okay. Thank you. And
Well said.
now the next area which I want to ask is people normally okay, if I'm a person who needs help, I'm coming to you and you're guiding me, and I feel I get clarity, and then say after the period of all the sessions, then I go back, and normally similar to motivation, we are here and then I come to you and then I go here, and then there's a possibility that I can again go back, or the other thoughts may kick in. Are there any technique which you teach them, or are there any basic tips or a daily regime or a daily rituals, as Tony Robbins says, anything which you impart in them so that they understand it, they imbibe it, and then with which they're able to move on? Or is it like a journey pattern where they come to you, you give a session, and after that, anytime and every time they are in need, they email you or they get in touch with you? How does it work?
Well, it's both. So for me, I think
Okay.
to be a successful life coach and a successful transformational story coach, it's really important that I hope my clients don't need me after they finish working with me. I hope that they are so confident and clear and feeling free that they're able to drive their own ship. And so that's really important to me. You know how they say, teach a man to fish? It's really that concept, because at the end of the day, it would be no use for me to say, oh, I'm going to heal your story for you. And then I'll do all the work. Well, no, they have to do all the work. And so it's a two-parter. There's definitely practical tips that I can share with you 100%. And on the other side of that, it is up to the individual client to really be devoted to their own change. I can only be as invested as they are. And so if they're really not into the idea, or they're scared or they're afraid, I can help them break through that, but they have to commit to the action that they need to take. One of the very simple techniques that I use is the 3 R's. So a lot of the time we allow kind of negative thoughts and actions and reactions to overtake us. And that becomes a force of habit. And so what I ask people to do is to recognize when that negative thought is coming in. So for example, someone might say to me, Cecilia, I am really I don't like myself. I don't like the way I look. I feel that I'm overweight and I'm unattractive. So if you think about those sentences, those are all derogatory comments that a person is making to themselves. And guess what your mind pays attention to? It pays attention to what you tell it. So if you're telling yourself these awful, terrible things that break down your self-esteem, then you are operating on all cylinders in the direction of negativity. So when someone says that to me, I might say something like, okay, well, how would you rather feel? What would you rather experience? And they might, return and say, well, I want to feel fit and healthy. I don't want to feel so heavy. So instead of saying, things like, oh, I'm so fat, or I'm so lethargic, or I can't move, I might ask them to look at it from a different angle and say, I feel healthful and vibrant, and I make good food choices because I know they're going to feed my soul and my body. And so it's just the words that we choose that really make a difference. So when we have a negative thought, we need to recognize it, take a moment to step back and look at it. And then we want to replace it with an encouraging or beautiful thought. And then we want to repeat that over and over again, that same sequence. So recognize, replace, and repeat. And if you do that on a regular basis, it takes 21 to 30 days to establish any habit. Eventually, your body, your mind, and your soul starts operating on the level of, this is just me. It's normal for me to feel healthful and vibrant. It's normal for me to pick healthy foods. It's normal for me to get moving. And that's kind of one very simple technique that I use in order to kind of substitute the old behavior for the new behavior. Now, in connection to the second question that you asked me, there is, a lot of blockage from your subconscious mind. So we operate 5% on the conscious level and 95% below the surface. That's where all of our information is. And our mind takes it in very simply and says, okay, well, you've told me that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, and you won't be able to accomplish this task. Well, guess what? Your cells respond to that and go, okay, Cecilia, that's how we're going to be now. And we're going to make decisions and commit actions towards that. So if we know that 95% of our brain is being directed by our subconscious and our negative self, then what we have to do is wire and fire on a more conscious level. And, what is really important is to see what's behind the subconscious, and it's always the past. So when we talk about rewriting the past, it's understanding that we have allowed the things that have happened to us, been said about us, or even around us that we have heard to seep in and determine how we feel about us. Now, let me say that again. All the stuff from the past, from the outside of who we are, we've allowed to inform who we are now. And that's where people get stuck and keep falling back into the same cycle and the same pattern. So a big part of what we do is we smash through that pattern by looking at the past from a different angle and having it be totally within your control so that it no longer haunts you as a point of not being able to shift and move forward.
Perfect. Now, if a person comes, especially, they were doing good, they were all fine, and due to this current situation, which is globally happening, and say if the we can take whether the person was a business person or business owner or an entrepreneur or office goer, a person who's working in a company, IT professional, whoever it may be. They were doing good and things were going on smooth. And now they've come to a situation where they need some kind of a support. But this state of restlessness is there. They do not know what's going to happen in the future. And they feel, I do not know what's going to happen in the future and how am I going to manage it. I mean, like the fear of unknown is normally the one which actually makes a person feel really low.
Yes.
So how do we deal with that?
Well, I think that with everything that's going on right now with quarantine and with COVID, it's really challenging because it's easy for people to get into a state of depression and anxiety. And a lot of us are just watching the news 24/7 and worried about what's going to happen, and rightfully so. But when we overwhelm ourselves with that external information and are consistently concentrating on it, then that's what becomes our current reality. And not that it's not true and that it's not real, but then we are just feeding into those same stories over and over again and creating more and more anxiety. And so for those who are working and having questions about what the future is going to look like, a lot of what I encourage people to do is to live in the moment, because truly, and this is something that I had to grasp, the present moment is all we have. 5 seconds ago is gone. 5 seconds from now is untold. And if we are making decisions too far into the future or steeped in our past, then we're actually stuck and not able to walk because we have 1 foot here and 1 foot there. Where's the balance? Whereas we have to be here, right now. And so I would encourage everybody to look at what you can control and what you can't control. What can you control? Your actions, your feelings, your thoughts, and what you focus on. You cannot control other people's actions. You cannot control the virus. You cannot control how things take place. Only your decisions in every moment are what matters. And if we take the time to sort of decompress and really hone in on that, it makes a big difference as to the strength that we can deal with each situation in. And I think that truly helps people, is to be able to say, right here and now is what I need and what I can focus on. And that's all I need to worry about in the moment. And then from there, yes, we can make plans. Yes, we can make goals. But the idea being that the more present we are, the more presence we create and the more peace we incite.
Thank you. There's another approach also, like, when people set their goals and they want to achieve, and they've
Mm-hmm.
been achieving on a regular basis, and they've been able to reach that goal, and then they set another goal, and then they reach it. People are used to that kind of mind frame. When it
Mm-hmm.
comes to a situation like this, we have lockdown after lockdown, where
Yes.
things are slowed down because the part of world where I come from, we had first a lockdown for a month, and then it got extended for another 15 days, another 15 days, for another month, and then
Mm-hmm.
another 15 days, and then we had a 15-day window, and again a month long lockdown, which is still
Yeah.
happening. So
Yeah.
after this, it may be again opening up, or again lockdown. We do not know. It
That's
depends on what
right.
the government decides. So these kind of situations where I really want to achieve and I've always been doing, and now suddenly I do not know, and this has made everybody come on the same line, whether they were a famous movie actor or a
Mm-hmm.
sportsman or an office goer or a business person or a consultant, all on the same line, all sitting inside the four walls and not
Yes.
able to do what they're normally supposed to do. So in this
Mm-hmm.
scenario, do you think staying really optimistic will help, or being moderately optimistic will help? Because over optimism also, I feel, oh, being over optimistic also, they feel like my God, I planned everything and then it's not happening. And then
Yeah.
they say, okay, now it's how do you see
I
this?
get that. That's a great question. I mean, and this is the thing. I think, people always want to try and be optimistic and positive, and that's great, and I get that, but it's important to also feel what you're feeling and acknowledge it. I just don't want people to sit in that awful feeling for a long time. So being able to say, look, I feel anxious or I feel worried, I have no idea what's going to happen moment to moment, and that makes me feel concerned. And it's okay to acknowledge that, to allow that to pass through your body. But at the end of that, I want people to tack on the idea that, yes, I'm feeling worried and I'm concerned about what may or may not happen, but I'm going to keep my feet grounded. I'm going to be realistic, and I'm going to take everything one step at a time. It's really important not to overwhelm ourselves with all of these crazy plans, right? Because we just don't know from moment to moment now what the plan may or may not be. And even the plans we do make could be completely changed because of this environment. And so I think it's just important to kind of stay simplified. People are very, you get anxious when you're trying to predict too much of the future, as opposed to, I'm going to make a decision here and now, and I'm going to let go of the outcome. When we let go of the outcome, it really shows faith in the fact that we're making good choices for ourselves. And I genuinely believe that if we are coming from a place of honesty, integrity, and love, it doesn't matter what choice you make, you're going to land in the right space and place for you. And that even if unexpected things happen, that's okay too, because that is an experience that's created for your learning and your growth. So just kind of taking things in stride, taking it easy. I always encourage people, this is the best time to meditate, to journal, to decompress, to take some time for yourself, to not be so crazy with your schedule, and connect with friends and family and people that you love, and with yourself. It's been very interesting. I mean, certainly being home with the kids since March. I think you saw one of my daughters walk in the back, and I might have said 5 times, "Don't walk while I'm having the interview," and off she goes, right? And that's okay. That's life. And I think it's accepting those kinds of things and realizing that that's how it happens, and knowing that that's okay. I think if we try too much to judge
Yeah.
ourselves or criticize the situation or predict, that's when we start to get overly concerned. So one day at a time, one step at a time, baby steps. That's what I would suggest, because I think when we are overly zealous about everything, that's when we sort of, our feelings get out of hand and spiral.
Now, how about okay? We were talking about adults. I know this is a little bit branch question of the first area where I touched. How do we impart this with the children? How, I mean,
Mm,
because uh, it's it's kind of like something very new to them, and something they're not used to. They have to stay inside four walls. or inside the house? And how do we handle children in this aspect?
That's a great question. I have two daughters. They're 14 and 11, and they have asked me many questions. You know, some interesting things have happened. Like my older daughter, she was supposed to graduate and have a grad and go on a grad trip and have that experience with her friends, and she actually fell into
Yeah,
a little bit of depression because she wasn't able to follow through and do the things that she was excited for. And you know, we had to work through a lot of those feelings because it is so normal to feel that, and they're isolated from their friends, so all these kids can't really necessarily get together like they used to, and all of that
yeah,
takes a toll because we thrive on human connection. So for these
correct.
kids, it's even more challenging because they look at it from, they don't totally understand what's going on sometimes. They're not sure how to process it, and they're feeling overwhelmed by the idea that they don't know when this is going to end, and they're asking all kinds of questions about, are we going back to school, what is it going to look like, how do I anticipate what it's going to be. And really, I don't even have any of the answers necessarily. Like, we're still all waiting here in
Yes,
Canada for what that is going to appear like in September. And I think that the one thing I did say is, I said, yes, the world is different now. We're going to have to be more cautious. We're going to have to wear masks when we go out, like they mandated it here. So everywhere you go now, when you're indoors and you're not able to social distance, you have to wear a mask. And everybody's sort of getting used to that. And my daughter said something so fascinating to me, which I think is really insightful, is that nobody can see your expression when you're wearing a mask. And how do
true,
you express your feelings? Right. And so that
true.
was something that really hit me. And I thought, that is so, that is such a deep thing to say, because we're just not the same as we used to be. Everything has to be a little bit different. And we have to sort of accept that we're going to look different. It's going to feel different. It's going to sound different. Everything we
Yes,
do is going to be altered. And so I just kind of let them know that no matter what, everything will work out as it should. You know, we're going to be hopefully okay. And I can't tell you when it's going to be over, but I can tell you that I will love the heck out of you every single moment of every single day and help you through whatever you're feeling, and let you know that I'm here for you no matter what. And a lot of what we've done is just try to occupy their time, distract them, come up with fun activities to do together, socially distanced ways to connect with people. And you know, hey, our whole lives have now come online, right? How many, I can't tell you, all my
yeah,
clients are via video. Now we're talking via video, like, whereas normally maybe in a different world, and this is where I like to see things in a
true,
beautiful light, you and I never would have met, you know, if it wasn't for the internet. And so I think
true, true,
trying
true.
to see things right from a creative and positive point of view is great. But yeah, you know, it's a tough discussion to have. But I always think, you know, keep it simple, come up with great, easy distractions, have them talk about their feelings, let them express themselves, and have fun together in this opportunity that you have. Because when do we ever get to stop and take stock? When do we ever get to slow down and say, okay, you know what, we have all this time with one another? It's
Right.
a beautiful gift, actually.
When you started about the mask, which covers the expressions, I saw,
Mhm.
I think in US, they've come up with the mask, which is completely clear here. So at least when we smile or laugh,
Yeah.
people can see. And also that helps people who are person with disability,
Yes.
who cannot hear, who read our lips when we are talking. So this part alone is with a clear strip, so people can see. But I think still it hasn't hit the market globally. In some countries, they have that.
Yes. It's
Now,
really
next
good.
question is
Mhm.
when it comes to yeah, next question is like from one age, I'm going to the other extreme. How about the elderly people when it comes to adapting to this? Because you rightly said day in day out when they wake up, once the eyes open, they're looking for how many people admitted, how many people are, and of course the news 24 by 7, we
Mhm.
keep hearing the same. Now when I call somebody, after saying hello, the first question is like, how is the corona situation there? That's
Yes.
a standard second question I get. So so how do we deal with emotions of elderly people?
Oh, it's such a hard thing. I actually I know several people who have been greatly impacted by the virus, who have lost loved ones because of it, who were elderly. And it is so heartbreaking. And here in Canada, we had a terrible situation where many of our old age homes, the need was so great, the problems were so immense, they did not have enough staffing, there wasn't enough regulation, and many people died what we think is needlessly. And so that's been such a heartbreak. So I can understand exactly as you're saying that for anyone who is of that age bracket, it is extremely concerning. I have several friends who are older and they worry about going out. They worry about, having to be outdoors and then get infected if they have breathing issues or health problems. And one of the things that I've been doing is just checking in with the people who are stranded and unable to go anywhere or see anybody because of their health conditions. It's so important because when we feel lonely, that's when the depression sets in. And when you feel depressed, you sometimes don't feel like you want to go on. And when you don't feel like you want to go on, that's when life can be shortened in a very rapid space. So I think
Right.
that for those who are stuck at home, please try and connect with somebody and with people who love you and try and talk to them as often as possible. My mom was telling me this, and it was pretty funny. She has a weekly online karaoke group, which I think is so amazing. And they
Uh-huh.
all get together. She's in a building with many elderly people, and they all try to get together over Zoom, which was a bit of a task, but they managed. And they just sit and they sing together and they listen to music with one another. And that kind of connectedness is terribly important. So I would encourage anyone who has the ability to reach out, if it's virally or in person, even if you're able to drop off groceries for someone or, socially distance and speak to them from the porch and the door. All of those things really matter, because the last thing we need is to forget the people that really need the help and the support, who maybe don't have the resources. A lot of the people that my mom was telling me about, they have no more family. Maybe their spouse has died and they don't have any children here in Canada. So they're by themselves and truly isolated.
Wow.
And that's when things, get really tough. What I would also say is, as I mentioned, just try not to overwhelm, yourselves with the news all the time. Maybe try and reduce it down to, I'm going to check in a couple times a week on what's going on, as opposed to every day, morning and night. I think that is a very big challenge, because everybody wants to know information, and I get that, and it is important to be informed. But if we are over-informed, then we're really creating that kind of cyclone of terror. And not that we shouldn't be cautious and mindful, but it's harder when we kind of create this environment of fear in ourselves.
Exactly, because we also understand more than the actual corona, more than the actual COVID-19, it's a fear about it is actually making a lot of people uh, probably the immunity level go down because of continuously thinking about it and fearing about it. They immediately
Yes.
visualize, okay, I'm going to be admitted and then I'm going to be wrapped in a plastic. These kind of unwanted, which is never going to happen. All these kind of thoughts are continuously hitting them. Okay, now we move on to
Yes.
the next question. Tell me about your book.
Oh, I should have, what? I
That
wanted
is,
to come and show it to you. I have it over there. So,
please,
oh, okay. One
please.
sec. I'm leaving the
Yeah.
interview. I'll be right back. I hope you entertained everybody with a little dance while I was gone. No?
No, no,
Oh,
no.
that's so
I want,
unfortunate.
I want them to stay. I don't want them to go away.
Well, so I'm very excited. I'm actually launching my book in 2 weeks on August 14th, on my 44th birthday. So this is
Wow.
my book, If I Could, I
Mm,
Would. And it's
mm,
a child's journey from abuse to hope. And basically, it is my story of growing up with child abuse and talking about what it was like for me as a kid. And I basically reimagine all of the situations that happened from the perspective that I'm able to imagine away the pain from the past for me and for my family. So it's pretty great. I'm so excited about this because it's been such a labor of love. And what's more interesting than anything else is that this book, after I finished writing it, I sent it to my abusive dad, and he asked to write a letter at the end. So you'll see that he's in here, and it's such a beautiful, unexpected ending, and it's something that is a beginning for me because of it. And we forged a brand new relationship from this book, and
Wow.
that's something that just sort of transformed my idea of how I could turn anger into love. And I think everybody should read it, and understand the importance of communicating with truth and kindness and compassion in everything we do, whether you are a parent or a child or a friend or a family member. And I do go into, in the book, I talk about different ways that people can fight with love, how to communicate with one another in the most, in the most beautiful way that just creates better understanding, deeper connection, and a clarity about who each person is and how they fit into the world.
Okay. That's nice. That's nice. Is this available on Kindle version or only a paperback?
It is available in hardback, in paperback, and in an ebook, and it is available on Amazon. So if you just look up "If I
Wow.
Could, I Would" and my name, Cecilia Tement, then you can find me.
Okay. 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 Thank you. This is for the viewers who would like to purchase. It's "If I Could, I Would" by Cecilia Tement. Okay. Now we move on to the next question. Uh, this situation also has created a lot of strain among the couples, right?
Mm.
So there's that, there,
Aha,
there,
yes.
has, there has been a huge spike in divorces globally.
Yes.
So how do you see that, and what areas? See, a lot of information is available online, and this is not something which, as a couple, people wouldn't know. They would know, but always there's something like, okay, even though I know, I would like to hear it from a person who is seen as a coach, so that
Yes.
when I hear it, then I start doing it. So, what is your say on that?
Well, first of all, is there something you want to tell me about what you've been going through during quarantine?
No, no, it's not a personal one which I was asking
I'm
about. Like
teasing. I'm just joking. Yeah, no, I understand. No, I was just, are you asking me for advice? No, I'm kidding. You know what?
How did you
There has been,
know?
I knew. No, I just knew. What's so funny is that like sometimes it's getting the line between friend and coach. So if I'm talking to somebody in my life and then I'm like, are you asking me as a friend or as a coach? Because there's a difference. But you know what? Relationships are so tender, right? And they are to be
Yeah,
cherished. And I think what ends up happening is, of course, I mean, and believe me, and I'll say, I love you, honey, talking to my husband now, but we had some little incidents where we were like kind of sick of each other after a while, after being holed up together for many, many weeks and driving each other crazy. And all the little things that used to be small became big. And one of the things I always say to everybody is you have to remember, and again, not saying that this is a situation for everyone, in light of what I talk about in my book and domestic violence and that kind of thing. Obviously, not everyone is in a safe position, but in terms of good relationships and people that are really connected to one another, it's so easy to get mad at the people we love the most. It's so easy.
right.
Right? And why is
Right.
that? Because we know that no matter how many buttons we push, they'll hopefully still love us at the end of the day. And they probably won't go anywhere. However, can we make our relationships more enriched and calmer and more centered because of the choices we make? Absolutely. And so one of the things I say is, sure, people are going to fight. They're going to have disagreements. But how do you fight with love? One of the things I suggest is, if you're really feeling hyped up on both ends, is schedule a time to fight. And people always think it's really funny, but it's true, because if everybody's feeling raw and you try and communicate, chances are that communication is going to go wrong because you're feeling hurt and you're feeling maligned and you're not feeling validated. And a lot of the times when we try and, talk in that sort of state of mind, it really just spirals in the wrong direction. So, if you say, hey, let's let's give it a couple of hours. How about we come reconvene at 6 o'clock and let's try this again when we're both feeling a little calmer. One of the other things I really suggest to you is to not bring up the past. Now, this is a big one, and I work with a lot of my clients on this because everybody wants to make a laundry list of all the things that they feel the other person has done wrong before. But when we do that, we are not handling the situation in the moment. We are talking about the 10 or 20 or 15 situations that happened a long time ago or yesterday or 5 days ago. And really, that's not fair to yourself or for the individual in front of you. So if you can stay focused and present and say, you know what, we're going to deal with the issue at hand, then it really creates a much softer base for discussion. And another big one is don't call names. And people don't realize this, but we do it all the time. We say things to each other that we would never say to our worst enemy because we feel like it's okay because they're, known to us, but really it's not okay. And so, you have to kind of step back. And if you feel that urge in you rising where you're going to say something you regret, I highly recommend biting your tongue and walking away and taking a breath and taking a beat, because sometimes you cannot take back the words that fall out of your mouth. Someone explained it to me once, and I thought this was so smart. Imagine that when you're speaking, it's like you have a toothpaste tube and you've squeezed out all the toothpaste, and then you're trying to shove it back into the tube. It's impossible. So, if you
Right.
come from a place of, hey, my words have impact, my actions have impact, then you start to realize that maybe you want to rethink what it is you're about to say and do.
Okay. We'll touch on the other area, which is also now more strained, which is employee-employer,
Mm,
because a lot of companies have laid off people and
yes.
furloughed them, or have fired them, or have told them, okay, we'll let you know in another 10 months or 15 months.
Mm-hmm.
And if at all you get something better, you can go ahead. This kind of situation, like, it's not that the employer wants this to happen, but then they also
Yes.
do not have other options. What I wanted to know from you is, like, as an employee, what should be the way I maybe realign the way I think? What could be the things I could do? I mean, any basic tips? See, all these things are bound to happen. It's not like anybody is purposely or instigating it or doing it. They don't derive pleasure out of it, but they also
Mm-hmm.
have no other option to do other than this.
Yes.
So, what should
Yes.
be a state of mind?
I think that,
Especially, I'm talking in a consistent manner.
yeah, I mean, it's challenging because so many people have lost their jobs and everything has, I mean, in a way, I'm sort of fortunate in the industry that I'm in, is that if people want to be coached by me, I can do it online. Whereas other people, when they have to go into a physical space to work, if they're working at a restaurant or in a service industry or something that you have to go to a location, everything is different. Even my brother, who is employed by Starbucks, he used to be a cafe attendant. He can no longer work because they're no longer opening the restaurants in that way. And so it's been a real challenge for a lot of people. And I think it's very scary for everyone. And I agree, it can become extremely, difficult for anyone who has been furloughed or laid off or, unable to continue their work because of the virus. I think a big part of it is to kind of just say, this too shall pass, that something is going to happen for me in a different way, and to start thinking about everything in a COVID world. So, there's so many businesses that are all going online or services that are online. I would suggest kind of looking at creative and different ways that you can utilize your skill sets in a different industry, and trying to find ways to keep busy while you're on a search for another job or waiting to hear back from your current job. It is so challenging because those are circumstances you really cannot do anything about. And so really you have to keep your internal world as peaceful as possible among all of that chaos. And what I would say is just to, recognize and understand that A lot of people are going through something similar. You're not the only one. So bind together with each other and support one another and reach out for help when you need it. There's so many professional health services. Call me, I'll help you. There's lots of
Super.
different ways that we can connect. And I think that's really the key at this point, because as I said, you really have no clue when and if things are going to return back to normal. And so if you can't do that, you've got to find something else to, give you that impetus to say, I'm okay, I'm happy, I'm healthy, and I'm going to do what I can to kind of mitigate that feeling of, not being employed.
Okay. And also, there's one more thing which is happening globally as well. A lot of people have their sleep pattern has changed, their eating pattern has changed
Mm-hmm.
because of continuous or overthinking. Their sleep pattern, most of them have even turned insomniac. Maybe it's a deep word to say, but then most of the night they don't sleep,
Mm-hmm.
hardly 1 or 2 hours. What could be the ways they could come out of it? Of course, it differs from person to person,
Mm-hmm.
but what could be certain basic tips which they could follow to at least overcome that stage?
Well, I
Because
think it
that
depends.
eventually it's going to help.
Yes, like people not sleeping and not getting enough rest. I think it's very typical because people are up worrying and they're just kind of filling their heads with what could or couldn't happen. And so it's hard to get full rest, but it's so important to sleep because it helps you to rewire your brain, to give yourself a sense of calm and to really, feel better to tackle the next day. There's a very simple breathing exercise that I've shared with people before called 478. It's very well known. And basically, that is where you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold it for 7 seconds, and you exhale for 8. So, again, that's inhale for 4, hold it for 7, and exhale for 8. And as we breathe in, I always say I'm going to breathe in calm and love and light. And as I breathe out, I'm going to breathe out chaos. I'm going to breathe out negativity. I'm going to breathe out any feelings from the day that don't feel aligned with me. It's important before you go to bed to make sure that you don't have too much caffeine, to not be even watching TV. All of those things kind of activate your mind in a direction that doesn't allow for peaceful rest. And definitely don't watch the news before bed. And I would say, if you want to almost rewrite your day in your head, that's a really great way that I decompress, is to literally, if something's gone wrong or it hasn't been a very good day, I just lay down, I close my eyes, and I think to myself, how would I reimagine that happening to me in a way that is, lovely and happy and better? Because when you can do that, your brain believes your imagination. Your imagination is more powerful than your logic. So when you can visualize and put yourself in that space and place, it completely changes your feelings internally about other things. So that's one really simple way that people can do that.
Okay. Okay. See, this program, this show, the way the thought where it came was there was continuous news of COVID and Corona continuously from all directions, and there was overdosage. Obviously, everybody, anything and everything. At least I was just counting one day, more than 18 times I said the word Corona or COVID before even I touched
Yes.
11 o'clock. So
Oh,
I was like
wow.
thinking, what's happening? What's happening? So and then I also saw people who are known to me are also doing the same. And then I realized, like, okay, people who are close to me are continuously thinking about it. I come from a field where I have to work in that area, so that is different. We are trained to at least come out of it at the end of the day, so we know this is work, and we don't mix with that, mix that with the life. But how about the people who are not trained? So then we thought, like, okay, why not we have people who are experts in a particular domain and they are impacting the community positively, have 1 hour sessions or 2 hours, two people in a day, they come and then they share their knowledge, and then that kind of spreads positivity. We've been having successfully, you're the 71st guest. We've been having
Wow.
almost every day without clashing with my regular day work. one or two people from different parts of the world. They come, they share, and this people who view are also viewing by America TV, which is based out of New York. The logo which you see on the left bottom corner, they are based out of it's a web TV again, something like this, based out of New York, and they focus on Indians who are in America. Apart from this, this is also live streamed not only in Facebook, also in YouTube. So people, they go little bit later, they see, and slowly what I could see is this is a consistent, maybe it's just a drop, but then consistently this drop will create ripples, and in eventually will create positive waves. And thanks to people
It's
like
wonderful.
you who are doing such a wonderful job of helping people to come out of their pain, and wherein you don't just give some theories or something from book, where you take the knowledge from your personal life and then you customize it to the person who's coming in front, with asking for a help. So this kind of I never, of course, thanks to technology, as you rightly said, with the help of internet, I would have otherwise never imagined sitting with transformational story coach. If I could, I would author the Cecilia in front of me. I wouldn't have, probably like maybe in a TEDx or something, we would have met. But other than that, like the chances are very slim. But this COVID has made us to think little bit in directions which we would have never thought before. In a
Totally.
way, it is kind of like helping us. But what my question is, how some people are able to see the same situation and then take a positive route, and some see the same situation and take a negative. I mean, like, how does it happen? Is it because of conditioning, or if that's
Mhm.
so, then how do they have to rewire it?
Yes, that's a great question. First of all, I want to say thank you for what you're doing, because I think this is so beautiful, and it's a gesture of love on your part to really connect people in this way. And it's so important because if we don't have people like you, then we don't have the ability to share our messages of transformation and love. So thank you for that. In terms of why people can, you could look at the same object and have a totally different interpretation, right? The same event, the same person, and it really does come from your past. So what we do is we have, yes, this preconditioning that says, well, I'm never going to feel good about myself. Things will never change. It's always going to stay the same. And the more our subconscious mind tells us that and we buy into it, then that becomes the challenge. And that's why it's so hard for us to shift. But when we start to realize that we are the author of our own lives, that we write our own script, we direct our own movie, we star in our own movie, all of these things help you to see that you are not actually a victim, but a volunteer in your life. What do you want to volunteer for? What do you want to show up for? Because really, it's not everything and everyone happening to you, it's you happening to yourself. And when you start to see that, then you say, hey, wait a minute. Maybe I need to stop and rethink what I'm doing and what I'm thinking and saying in order to set myself on a different trajectory. And I really feel that personal transformation comes from personal recognition. And when you can see that and understand it, then that starts to change things. So, I would encourage you guys to look at it, because we're always looking at it from a place of lack. Whenever we react with our ego, or we are judgmental or critical of ourselves or other people, it's just because we haven't, we don't really believe that we're enough. And when we don't feel like we're enough, then we try to scrimp and motion towards fighting for our identity, as if we have to prove something to somebody. But I would encourage you to think about the idea that you have to prove nothing to no one. You are already perfect and amazing just as you are. And all you need to do is to take each moment and say, what do I want to feel now? What would I like to experience now? And focus on that, because that's what's going to change your life.
Super. Uh, all the areas of the second segment, we have covered that. Now we are moving on to the third segment, more lighter. I'll be giving you a situation. You can
Mm-hmm.
think and come up with the solution or the answer for it. I'm giving you a time machine. By the way, are you watching, or have you finished watching Dark in Netflix? You finished watching, is it?
I have not seen it. I don't even know about that. I will check it out.
Okay. Okay, because because this idea of time machine came after seeing that series. I'm giving you a time machine, and 2020, Miss Cecilia has the time machine in front of her, and she operates that and goes to her 20-year-old version. So, what would 2020 version of Miss Cecilia would go and tell the 20-year-old version of her, and how would she rewrite the life?
Well, I would, in a way, it's funny. I talk about rewriting the past, but at the same time, I'm very grateful for everything that happened exactly the way that it did, because I wouldn't be who I am now. So I
Wow.
will say that one piece first. However, having said that, you know, if I could talk to 20-year-old Cecilia, first of all, I would say get more sleep, and I would say um, stop partying so much. No, okay. I really would tell her to just love herself. I think that is the number one thing that has completely changed my life. I would say love yourself fully, completely, absolutely, and first, best, and most. There is nothing and no one in your life that is more important than you. And when you see that and you understand it and you start living it, then everything else just falls into place in the most spectacular way. And you can live your bliss when you live in love. I think that's the only thing I would tell her.
Okay. Now, more focused on the next segment, which is a gratitude slot, where you
Mm-hmm.
can go ahead and thank people whoever has supported you to be who you are today. Basically, people who you owe your success to. You can thank them by telling their name.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Go ahead.
um, thank my mother, Elizabeth Ng, and my brother, Anthony Ng, and his wife, Julie, and my husband, Robert, and his entire family. And I really want to thank Lindsay Travers as well. She helped illustrate the book along with my mom. And Cheryl, who has been amazing and supportive to me. Cheryl Jananga, thank you for everything that you've done for me. And all of my family and friends who've been so incredible. But most of all, I just want to thank my dad. I want to thank my dad for helping me on this journey of healing and releasing the pain of my unforgiveness. And I want to thank myself for being here for me.
Okay. Okay. Super. Super. Now, if you consider your life as a book, and you, of course, there's many more episodes where you will be touching, impacting lives of many people globally. But so far, whatever pages have been completed, if you see that pages which are completed, if you sum it up, what is one topmost lesson you have learned in life?
That's a big question. Do you have another hour? Okay, no. So we have 1 minute left. So
No,
the biggest lesson.
we can have a part two version of this based on your convenience.
Great. The biggest lesson that I've learned. Wow. You know what? The biggest lesson that I've learned is to live in the moment, to really be present and open-minded and open-hearted, and to allow the good things to flow in, and to know that I deserve those good things. Everybody does.
Perfect. Perfect. We have come to the end. I requested 60 minutes of your time. We have come to the 54th minute, another 5 more minutes. What I want to ask you is, if what message would you like to leave to the world, the viewers and people who are watching now and who will be watching this later from YouTube or from Facebook? What message would you like to give them?
You're never stuck. You're never stuck, and you're never alone. Whatever you are feeling right now, if you're in a moment of despair or hurt, know that there are people out there who care about you and who love you and are going to help you to learn to love yourselves. You never have to give up. Don't give up. Live your life, live it in joy and in bliss, and know that you deserve all of it.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Cecilia. I really like the way and every single answer with with a sense of humor, and at the same time mixing it with a deep message and something from your personal life. It was a well blended. Every single answer you gave was
Oh,
really good, and it was on the dot. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. No, thank you, my friend. It was such a pleasure to know you, and thank you to
Thank you.
everyone
Thank you.
for watching.
Thank you. Thank you. That was Miss Cecilia from Toronto. I really like the way she explained every single question. The way she explained, people would be able to connect and remember, and then also they will definitely practice. The way she explained about different stages in life, different people, different age group, it was truly amazing. Hopefully, she has, definitely after this session, I'll be talking to her, and if possible, we'll be having at least every week for a small sessions. We'll see based on our availability that will happen. Thank you.